Hey guys, what is up? NYK31 here, doing some Madden 19, showing you the current state of the Ultimate Team squad. As you will see, a weekend league game be played as the backdrop to this. And really, what a week in the NFL, huh? I absolutely love how the NFL's off season has become like the NBA. This is one of the better things that the NFL has made a conscious effort to do. It's easy to poke fun at the NFL and Roger Goodell at times. The NFL can be overly corporate, cold, you know, buttoned down, straight laced, all of that. And all that's very true at times with the NFL, but they definitely took a page out of the NBA's book with the offseason the past couple of years and just bombarding us with transactions and player movement, which is a lot of fun. Lots and lots of fun. Twitter was a really entertaining place to be this week as, the dollars were flowing fast and furious and, updates coming as far as who's coming, who's going, you know, who's being traded and all of that good stuff. We'll touch on that a little bit. But as far as the as far as my Jets go, I'll start with them. Um, so far, I think I would grade their offseason so far as a solid B. They signed C.J. Mosley. They got Le'Veon Bell. They signed Jamison Crowder from the Redskins, and they got themselves a slot corner, Brian Poole. I believe he was from Atlanta, to a one-year deal, which they needed to do. Top flight, prime, healthy corners, outside corners. They don't hit the free agent market hardly ever. Unless you have a guy like Jason Verrett who's been off injured and you can sign him on the cheap like the 49ers did. 49ers have been really active as far as that's concerned, signing players that have a tendency to get banged up. McKinnon, Verrett, and their quarterback. If the 49ers can keep those guys in one piece, they can make some noise. But, yeah. So far with the Jets off season, Anthony Barr would have been nice, but he decided to stay in Minnesota. The Jets were looking to use Anthony Barr as an edge pass rusher, which was interesting. Barr did play 3-4 outside backer at UCLA, but he's been used as a 4-3 backer with the Vikings. And Barr is one of those players that gets overrated, mainly by the Madden crowd and casual fans because he's such an athletic beast. And he makes a couple of Pro Bowls because half the damn league makes the Pro Bowl. But he's a good player. I wouldn't put him in the elite category, but he's a guy who you can envision being able to do a lot of things. I don't know if the Jets are going to be married to the 3-4 or 4-3, which is really pretty much irrelevant. I would have to believe that if they were going to use him as an edge rusher, they'd use him more as a stand-up guy and move him around. But he didn't want to play the Jets. He wanted to stay in Minnesota, and there he went. C.J. Mosley, a little pricey. With linebackers, you don't want to pay too much of a premium for backers unless they're guys who can cover your Bobby Wagners, your Luke Kuechly's, guys like that, or if they're edge pass rushers. 15 mil per with, I think, 30, 35 million guaranteed in that range. That's a lot. Actually, it's a little bit more than that. 17 million. Yeah, that's pricey. That's going to happen in free agency sometimes. That's a bit of an overpay, in my opinion. Again, good, solid player. I wouldn't pay that money to a guy unless he was a, transcendent all-pro level player. But that tells me that they're pretty much done with Darren Lee. So in that sense, he's an upgrade, so I can't really be too upset about that. Again, a little pricey for my blood, though. They also traded for Osemele from the Raiders. I still want another lineman for the Jets. The line was a big problem. And as far as, Le'Veon Bell is concerned, a couple of things with that. On Le'Veon Bell's perspective, you're thinking about it from his mindset and what he was trying to accomplish. For him, you got to consider it an L, don't you? I mean, look at what he was. Was his whole point in holding out for the dollars he thought he was going to get. He's in his prime years. He's 27 years old, so he has a few more years left before he hits the dreaded 3-0, which is where running backs historically hit the wall. He saves a year of wear and tear on his body by holding out the entire year. And his thinking is, I'm not just your standard, run-of-the-mill, tote it 25, 30 times a game, bell cow running back. I'm a complete playmaker at my position. You can split me out. You can put me in a slot. You can swing me out of the backfield. I can give you 1,200 yards rushing and 800 yards receiving in any given year. I'm better than typical running back money. I deserve to be paid more like a playmaking wide receiver, somewhere between wide receiver money and quarterback money. That was his goal. And he did not end up with that. He ended up basically with a deal that was pretty close to what the Steelers were offering originally. And on the Jets, side of the ledger, it's basically a 3-year contract. You get him for his age, 27, 28, and 29 season. The 4th year is when he turns 30. He may see that season. He may not. You won't owe him any guaranteed money then. But you're going to get, 3 very productive years, you would think, out of the guy before he hits that wall, barring injury. And he's going to help Sam out an awful lot. Both, the threat of him running the ball and also him being a guy who can provide a source of high percentage completions to. The one thing that bears watching is, of course, with the receivers that they have, what are teams going to do? They're going to roll 8 in the box and dare Robbie Anderson and Quincy Enunwa to beat them. And Jamison Crowder out there when you go 3 wide. All those guys are ideally really, really nice number 2s. They're not what you would consider a bona fide stud number 1 receiver. Now, do you need a bona fide stud number 1 receiver? You don't need a Julio Jones, an Antonio Brown, a T.Y. Hilton, a Mike Evans, guys like that, your Mike Thomases. You can get by with the Doug Baldwins of the world and guys who are not below that level, like your Alshon Jeffrey types. Absolutely. But the bottom line is you need someone who can be steady, reliable, and provide a consistent production. And the Jets don't quite have that guy, in my opinion. At least not yet. Now, heading into the draft, get me an edge pass rusher, get me a corner, and I'll be a happy man. If you can squeeze another lineman in there in the free agent market, I'll be even happier. But so far, I give him a solid B. Now, about Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham. We start with Odell Beckham and the Giants. I don't blame the Giants for doing what they did, except for the fact that they paid him an extension a year ago. But as far as trading him, I don't blame him for doing that. They wanted to trade him last year, and if you follow the Giants and you pay attention to his interaction with the organization, it was inevitably heading towards a T.O., Antonio Brown type of situation. It was going to be that type of exit within 1 or 2 years. I don't think Odell Beckham or Antonio Brown are bad guys. You never hear about OBJ or AB getting into off-the-field trouble that I'm aware of. The Giant fans, they love Odell Beckham, and Odell Beckham has always been very accommodating with the fans. So on that front, I have nothing bad to say about him at all. I just think that he's a typical crazy wide receiver. I do not believe in revolving your team around a wide receiver, because all wide receivers are little nuts and they go left. Jalen Ramsey runs his mouth a lot, but after his fracas with AJ Green, he's hit the truest thing in the world. Wide receivers, it's an inherently selfish position, and they're hypersensitive. And I don't blame them for being a little bit self-centered. You don't get passes thrown your way, you don't get catches, you don't make plays, you don't score touchdowns, you don't get paid. So I get it. The problem is that when everything is about them on your team, it just creates a soap opera. Half the team are for the receiver, half the team are for the quarterback, half the team is for the player, half the team is for the front office and the coaching staff. It always plays out the exact same way. And the Giants are a bad football team. And I think people have the perception of the Giants as being more talented than they are, and if they just would get rid of Eli Manning, everything would be okay. The Giants are a bad team. They weren't winning a damn thing with him, and they'll be bad without him. What they need to do, they need to just completely pull the plug. I mean, I like Eli Manning more than most people, but it makes absolutely no sense to keep him on this team anymore. And their biggest problem right now is that they do not know how to. They either don't know how to cut the cord with him, or they're unwilling to. The loyalty that the Giants have to that man, you know, it's admirable in some respects, but at this point, it's holding them back from doing what needs to be done, and that is rebuilding that entire roster. Over the past couple of years, you've gotten rid of JPP, Olivier Vernon. You didn't want to play or pay Landon Collins. Your offensive line is a disaster. You have one really good back. You have a talented tight end that drops the ball a lot, and you have a decent slot receiver in Sterling Shepard, and literally nothing else. Cut the cord, bottom out, and if you don't like any of the quarterbacks in this draft, tank for Tua or tank for Trevor Lawrence. Those are your only options right now. They're the only options that make sense because you're going nowhere. Now on the other side, the Giants' misfortune is the Browns' gain. I mean, look at the Browns. You know, the Giants, they get a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and Jabril Peppers. The Browns have OBJ to put with Jarvis Landry. You got Baker Mayfield there. You got a good tight end. You got an army of backs, and you now all of a sudden have one of the best defensive lines in the entire league. So all of a sudden, the Brownies have real expectations for the first time in a quarter century, and I'm really curious to see how they respond to that. You got a lot of young guys who are very personable, to say the least. You got a lot of personalities and a lot of emotional guys on that team. I'm going to be really curious to see if they're ready for that. That's going to be fun to watch. Now, as far as the Steelers, I mean, where do you even begin with the Steelers? AB basically put on a clinic on how to nuke your employer's trade leverage. I ain't even mad at him. Again, I blame the Steelers more for, you know, their organizational breakdown. I think Tomlin, this is not an uncommon opinion of Tomlin. I think Tomlin runs too loose of a ship there. I don't think that that's a very disciplined unit. You have, you know, AB, who, like I said, like all wide receivers, will go left if you let him. Le'Veon Bell, quirky dude. Big Ben, he's a drama queen as well. That's a lot of, you know, flaky dudes, flaky personalities to have in your locker room, and to have them be guys who are prominent players you look to be leaders of your team. All you have left to show for AB is a third and a fifth. You still have Connor there, and now you have Juju, who needs to show that he can be the lead receiver. Simple as that. If he can, they shouldn't drop off that much. If he can't, and the laundry list of guys who were number twos and have been thrust into number one roles and haven't been able to, you know, live up to that mantle is a long and illustrious one. You know, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. It's just being, hey, okay, you're the guy now. Go ahead and catch some balls. It's a different world. So, you know, that's going to be interesting to see. I think everything is set up to see the ascension of the Browns and the decline of the Steelers, and, you know, who knows what the Ravens are going to be. We're going to see a full season of Lamar Jackson now. You got Earl Thomas there in the defense. I did lose some of the defensive players, but you got Earl there. I'm not quite sure what the Ravens are going to do offensively. They don't seem to have a whole heck of a lot there, unless I'm missing something. So that remains to be seen what they put together on that end of the ball. The Bears and the Packers have basically swapped safeties. Haha's in Chicago and Amos is in Green Bay. I was happy to see Deshaun Jackson back in Philly. To me, Deshaun Jackson was always an Eagle. He always will be an Eagle. I think that he just... Some guys you just associate with the franchise, and some guys just fit there. And to me, Deshaun Jackson just being an Eagle again, it just feels right. And I think he has plenty left. He was still one of the best deep threats in the league last year. It's hard to believe that Deshaun Jackson is 32 years old, but, you know, he can still burn. He can still gas. Worst case scenario, Deshaun Jackson, as he ages, will just become a better Mike Wallace. You know, Mike Wallace is a guy who aged pretty well, as you know, also, but Mike Wallace is nearly as polished a receiver that Deshaun Jackson is. You know, Deshaun Jackson will always be able to run a route, and he'll always be, for the foreseeable future, pretty damn fast. You just worry about him being, you know, fragile as he ages. He gets dinged up here and there. And that is a bit of a concern, but I think that, you know, health pending, I think he'll be just fine. We'll have Alshon Jeffrey. Aguilar will find his permanent home in the slot. There's no trying to mix in Golden Tate in there anymore, and should have good continuity there. So yeah, it's been a really, really active week of free agency. Kevin Coleman, Niners. I just read here that the Dolphins traded Ryan Tannehill to the Titans for a bag of nickels. Looks like here a 7th round pick and they're getting a 4th and a 7th and a 6th next year. Wow. That tells me that the Dolphins are going all in for tanking for Tua. That tells me that they're going to be focused really on cratering out and getting really bad. They probably don't think that the quarterback of the future is in this draft unless they like Drew Lock and he happens to fall, or maybe there's a surprise at the top of the draft. Kyler Murray doesn't go as high as people think, and neither does Haskins, who knows. But if I had to bet, they probably think that their QB is not in this draft and that they're going all in for Tua next draft. That'd be my guess. So there you go. What I'm going to show you now is a quick look at the salary cap ranked leaderboard. I decided to say, you know what, I'll throw my hat into the ring and do the MUT salary cap ranked leaderboard, last chance qualifying for the last EA Major of the Year. Just trying to find ways to have fun and keep engaged with this game, man. It has not been easy this year, and it's just not been a good Madden year. No one's been really happy with the game throughout the year and throughout the updates that have been going on. And, you know, I figured, hey, just give it a whirl, have some fun, give it a shot, see what you can do. I'm not a pro player. I think I'm a pretty good player, but I'm not a pro, so I don't expect to be, you know, up there with the guys who you see at live events. But I kind of want to see how high up the leaderboard I can get. And here's where I currently stand right now. I think it's 32, the top 32 per console. Get into the online elimination phase and go from there. So this is where I rank right now. Let's see how high we can get. Give it a shot. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Talk to you all later. Peace.